Hello, it's Mrs. LaCroix again, and we are going to read some more of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. We left off at chapter 2. We're going to start at chapter 3. Chapter 3, the second of the three spirits. Scrooge woke up in the middle of a snore. He sat up in his bed and sensed that a second ghost was about to come. And there it was, the ghost of Christmas present. It had curly brown hair, sparkling eyes, and it wore a simple green robe with white fur. Its feet were bare, and on its head it wore a holly wreath. There's a picture of it. The ghost took Scrooge. Whoa, there. The ghost took Scrooge to Bob Cratchit's house, a very poor little dwelling. In the kitchen you could see Mrs. Cratchit preparing Christmas dinner. Her children were cheerfully running around. Then the door opened and Bob Cratchit came in with Tiny Tim up on his shoulders. Tiny Tim was Bob Cratchit's youngest son. He bore a little crutch and had an iron brace around his legs. On our way home, Tiny Tim told me that he hoped the people saw him in the church because he was a cripple. It might be pleasant for them to remember on Christmas Day who it was who made the lame beggars walk and blind men to see. Bob's voice trembled when he said this. Then Christmas dinner was ready, and everyone sat down at the table. As the Cratchits were very poor, it was not much they had for Christmas dinner, but still everyone was joyful, and you could feel that they all had the Christmas spirit in their hearts. A Merry Christmas to all of us, my dears. God bless us, said Bob Cratchit. God bless every one, said Tiny Tim. He sat very close to his father's side upon his little stool. Bob held his little hand as if he feared to lose him. Spirit, said Scrooge, who felt sorry for the boy, tell me if Tiny Tim will live. I see an empty seat, replied the ghost, and a crutch without an owner. If these shadows don't change in the future, that child will surely die. This made Scrooge very sad, but the spirit went on and took Scrooge to his nephew's house. Fred and his friends had a very cheerful party and played games. Scrooge really enjoyed watching their party and wanted to stay, but in a second it all faded, and Scrooge and the spirit were again on their travels. They visited many homes in many places. They saw sick people who were cheerful, people in foreign lands who were close at home, poor people who felt rich that day, all because of the Christmas spirit. Suddenly, Scrooge noticed something strange about the ghosts. Two childlike figures were at the ghost's feet, a boy and a girl. But they looked old and dreadful, like little monsters. Scrooge was shocked. Spirit, are they your children? Scrooge asked. They are man's children, said the spirit. The boy is ignorance, and the girl is want. Beware of them both. But most of all, beware of this boy, said the spirit. Beware of ignorance. They have no place they can go on Christmas Day. They have what? Have they no place to go on this Christmas Day? Asked Scrooge. Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses? The spirit answered Scrooge in his own words. The clock struck the hour, and the ghost of Christmas present disappeared. And at last stroke of the bell, Scrooge saw the third ghost coming towards him. And there's a picture of the ghost and Scrooge and the two little children. The one is ignorance and the other is want. Chapter 4. The last of the spirits. Slowly and silently the ghost came nearer. It was very tall and wore a deep black piece of clothing which covered its whole body and left nothing of it visible but one outstretched hand. Are you the ghost of Christmas yet to come? Asked Scrooge. I fear you more than any other spirit. The ghost did not say a word, and Scrooge was terrified. They wandered through the city, and Scrooge heard some men talking about a person who had died. Scrooge knew the men and wanted to find out about whom they were talking, but the spirit moved on. The ghost led Scrooge through the streets that were very familiar to him, and as they went along, Scrooge looked here and there to find himself, but nowhere was he to be seen. They entered poor Bob Cratchit's house and found the mother and the children by the fire. They were all quiet, too quiet. The noisy little Cratchits were all still as statues. When Bob Cratchit came in, the children hurried to greet him. The two young Cratchits got up on his knees and laid their little cheeks against his face as if to say, "Don't mind it, Father. Don't be sad." "You went there today," said his wife. "Yes, my dear," returned Bob. "I wish you could have gone. It would have done you good to see how green this place is. But you'll see it often. I promised him that we would walk there every Sunday." "My little child," cried Bob. "My little child." He broke down in tears. The ghost moved on and took Scrooge to a churchyard. The spirit stood among the graves and pointed down to one. Scrooge slowly went toward it, and following the ghost's fingers, read upon the stone of the grave his own name, Ebenezer Scrooge. "Spirit!" Scrooge cried, "hear me! I am not the same man I was. I will not be the man I have been so far. Why show me this if I am past all hope? Good Spirit, I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall be within me always. I will not ignore the lessons that they teach. Oh, tell me that I may change my fate." Full of fear, Scrooge caught the spirit's hand, but the spirit suddenly changed. It shrunk and faded and finally turned into a bedpost. The next chapter is chapter 5. It's very short, so I'm going to go ahead and continue reading. So there's a picture of him at his gravesite, and it says Ebenezer Scrooge, and he's crying, and there is the spirit. Chapter 5, the end of it. Yes, and the bedpost was his own. The bed was his own. The room was his own. Best and happiest of all, the time before him was his own, and he could make the best of it. "I will live in the past, the present, and the future," Scrooge repeated as he got out of bed. "I don't know what to do. I am so happy as an angel. I don't know what day of the month it is. I don't know how long I've been among the spirits. Hello, hello there." He ran to the window, opened it, and put out his head. "What's today?" cried Scrooge, calling down to a boy in Sunday clothes. "Today?" replied the boy. "Why, it's Christmas Day." "It's Christmas Day," said Scrooge to himself. "I haven't missed it. The spirits have done it all in one night. Hello, my fine fellow. Do you know the poultry shop at the corner? And do you know whether they've sold the big turkey that was hanging up there?" "What, the one as big as me?" returned the boy. "It's still hanging there now." "Is it?" said Scrooge. "Go and buy it. I am earnest. Go and buy it, and come back with the man that I may give them the directions where to take it. I'll give you a shilling for your trouble." "Come back with the man in less than 5 minutes, and I'll give you half a crown." The boy was off like a shot. "I'll send it to Bob Cratchit," whispered Scrooge cheerfully. "It's twice the size of Tiny Tim." He dressed himself all in his best, and at last got out into the streets. He had not gone far when he came towards the two gentlemen who had been in his office the day before. "My dear sir," said Scrooge, "how do you do? I fear I wasn't pleasant to you yesterday. Allow me to ask you your pardon." And will you have the goodness too? Here, Scrooge whispered in his ear. Lord bless me, cried the gentleman. My dear Mr. Scrooge, are you serious? I don't know what to say to such generosity. Scrooge then went to the church and walked through the streets and watched the people. He had never dreamed that anything could give him so much happiness. In the afternoon, he went to his nephew's house. Fred, said Scrooge, it's your Uncle Scrooge. I have come to dinner. Will you let me in, Fred? Of course, Fred let him in. It was a very hearty welcome, and they all had a wonderful party. But Scrooge was early at the office the next morning. Oh, he was early there. If he could only catch Bob Cratchit coming late. And did it. Yes, he did. Bob was full 18 minutes late. Scrooge sat with his door wide open that he might see him come in. Hello, growled Scrooge in his usual way. What do you mean by coming here at this time of day? I am not going to stand this sort of thing any longer. And therefore, he continued, jumping from his stool, and therefore I'm about to raise your salary. A Merry Christmas, Bob. Bob Cratchit was very surprised, and so were many people who found Scrooge so changed. Scrooge became a better person. To Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. Scrooge became a good friend, as a good master, and as a good man, as a good old city knew, or any other good old city or town in the world could know. It was always said of Mr. Scrooge that he knew how to keep Christmas well. May that be truly said of us, and all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim would say, God bless everyone. And there is the last picture of Scrooge and Tiny Tim. The end of this book. I hope you enjoyed it.